What if you could hold in your hands a text that millions recite from memory, word for word, every day across every continent, and then see fragments of that same text preserved on parchment from Islam's earliest generations? Today, we're telling the story of the Qur'an, how it was revealed, how it was written down, how it was compiled, and what early manuscripts, like the Birmingham Folios and the Sana'a palimpsest, can and cannot tell us. What Muslims mean by Qur'an. For Muslims, the Qur'an is the speech of God revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, recited in Arabic, memorized, taught, and written down. It isn't just a book on a shelf, it is a living recitation. And from the very beginning, the Qur'an existed in two connected forms: oral transmission, people memorizing and reciting, and written recording, scribes writing revelations on available materials. This matters because when people ask, how was the Qur'an preserved, the historical answer isn't one method, it's a system with multiple layers working together. Revelation, 610 to 632 CE, from Mecca to Medina. According to Muslim tradition, revelation began around 610 CE and continued until the Prophet's death in 632 CE. The Qur'an was revealed over time, responding to real events, questions, conflicts, and moments of spiritual guidance. So the Qur'an's arrangement as a book is not the same as the order of revelation. It is a compilation of recited passages delivered across a prophetic lifetime in a society that valued memory, poetry, and public recitation. Writing during the Prophet's lifetime. Revelation was treated casually. Reports described that verses were recited, taught, and also written down. The BBC report on early Qur'an fragments notes that passages were written on materials such as parchment, stone, palm leaves, and even shoulder blades, reflecting the practical realities of the time. This helps explain why early Quranic written pieces could exist in multiple physical forms before a single bound volume became standard. First compilation, Abu Bakr's era. Why it happened. After the Prophet Muhammad's death, the early Muslim community faced new realities, expanding rapidly, fighting major battles, and losing some reciters. Traditional accounts describe a deliberate effort to collect the Qur'an into a more unified written corpus during the caliphate of Abu Bakr. One well-known narrative features Zayd ibn Thabit playing a key role in gathering material that had been written in the Prophet's presence and cross-checking it within the community. The point of this first collection wasn't to invent a new Qur'an. Muslims believe the Qur'an was already known through recitation. Rather, it was to protect the written record as the community changed. Standardization, Uthman's copies, unity of reading. As Islam spread into new regions, Arabic dialect differences and recitation variations became more visible. Traditional accounts describe the Caliph Uthman ibn Affan commissioning standardized copies and distributing them, aiming for unity and preventing disputes over textual forms. This is often summarized online with the phrase, Uthman burned Qur'ans, but the historical framing in the tradition is more specific. The goal was to standardize an official written form and reduce conflict, not to erase the Qur'an from people's hearts, because it was already widely memorized and recited. Manuscripts as evidence, what they show and what they don't. Now here's where modern audiences lean in: manuscripts. Manuscripts don't replace faith claims, and they don't automatically solve everything historically, but they do provide physical data, script style, layout, corrections, radiocarbon ranges, and textual comparison. Let's look at two famous examples often discussed today. The Birmingham Qur'an manuscript, radiocarbon range. In 2015, Qur'an folios held at the University of Birmingham were radiocarbon dated, with results indicating the parchment likely comes from between 568 and 645 CE at a high probability. Important detail: radiocarbon dating dates the parchment, not the ink, so scholars note the writing could be later than the animal skin date, depending on storage and use. Still, this places the material very early in Islamic history, close to the first generations of Muslims. The Sana'a palimpsest, layers of text. Another major discovery comes from Yemen. In restoration work at the Great Mosque of Sana'a in 1972, a large cache of manuscript fragments was found. Among them is what's often called the Sana'a palimpsest, a parchment where an earlier text was washed or erased and written over, leaving two layers. This is significant because it shows early manuscript culture was active and complex. Pages could be reused, and written transmission existed alongside oral practice. Researchers discuss how modern imaging, like ultraviolet techniques, can help make the lower text more readable. A careful takeaway: preservation is bigger than one artifact. Here's the balanced point. One manuscript fragment, no matter how early, doesn't represent the entire history by itself. But when you combine widespread memorization and recitation, written recording from the earliest period, early compilation and standardization narratives in the Islamic tradition, and manuscript studies that show early, highly similar Quranic texts, then you begin to see why Muslims have such confidence in the Quran's preservation and why researchers keep studying these materials with increasing sophistication. When people ask, how can we be sure the Quran reached us accurately? The most honest research-based answer is that preservation in early Islam was never just one thing, it was a network. The Quran was recited publicly and memorized widely, while also being written down and later organized into an agreed written form for communal unity. That's why early manuscript discoveries are so powerful. They don't stand alone, but they connect to a living tradition. In 2015, the University of Birmingham announced Quranic folios whose parchment was radiocarbon dated within a very early range, placing the material close to Islam's first generations, while scholars also remind us that parchment dating is not identical to ink dating. Meanwhile, the Sana'a discoveries found during restoration work at the Great Mosque of Sana'a include a palimpsest with 2 layers of Quranic text, showing how real communities produced, used, and sometimes rewrote written copies. Why this matters today? The story of the Quran is not only about the past, it's about what continues every day: recitation, memorization, reflection, and guidance. For believers, the Quran is more than history, it's divine speech. For historians, it's also a remarkably early and well-attested textual tradition, supported by living recitation and a growing body of manuscript research. So whether you approach the Quran through faith, history, or both, the story is profound. A revelation recited, recorded, gathered, standardized for unity, and carried across centuries by voices and pages together. If you want a follow-up episode, we can explore Qira'at, canonical recitations, early Arabic scripts like Hijazi, and how manuscript dating actually works, step by step.